So I found myself in DC, and I actually told my son's mom to get my son and take him up to DC with her. And I did that on purpose because when the court granted her custody, she did not have a place to live. I had an apartment and a bedroom for her, for my son, for him, and uh, we had just rented the apartment, and they awarded me custody, and I had him for a year, and then a year later, um, through some legal scandals, some legal scams, some conspiracies, suddenly my case got thrown out, and that's it. And my attorney disappeared. And when I say disappeared, all of a sudden she wasn't answering phone calls. Her phone line was dead. I traveled 30 minutes away to uh, her office, and upon arriving, looking into the window, the office was empty. My attorney just disappeared after getting money up to go hire the attorney. Disappeared, and all of a sudden my case is randomly thrown out, and then all of a sudden, uh, behind my back, behind the scene, all this went down behind while I'm working a job, while I'm working, being a responsible person, working two jobs. Uh, my son's mom shows up one day and says the case is thrown out. You have to give them back to me now, because it wasn't a final custody order. It was somewhat of a temporary custody order because of her, you know, dysfunctional lifestyle. It was all her. Then they threw they awarded me custody at the time, and then we were supposed to go back, and where I was going to get full custody, but because and this took a year, but because behind the scenes, while I'm working, being a responsible adult, my son's mom and whatever happened with the attorneys. I think it's about now that my son's 18. At the time, this was back in it's 2026 now. This was back in 20 between 2012 and 2013. Okay, and 2013 is when this went down. Right. I think maybe we're at a place where I feel comfortable asking his mom what really happened. My suspicion is that she took she figured out who my attorney was, and the dude that she was with, who made a lot of money and worked for the United States government, for like the Department of Justice, I think, um, and worked, you know, for them. Anyways, I think that she somehow got him to pay off my attorney, and in order to get the to hire an attorney for her, and then they went to court, and then the whole thing was a scheme, and then uh, I think that they either did that, or see, my attorney ended up getting disbarred, and due to something, but I never found out what. But she failed completely give to completely do her work, to file certain paperwork, and therefore my case got thrown out. That is what I originally thought, right? And it could be that. right? It could be part of that. At the same time, I was at a laundromat, and the lady that worked there, we got to talking, and I told her about my attorney and what happened and everything. And this is like really wild. Really, I talk about how the fluke shit happens in my life and how anomalous everything is, how bizarre everything is. And this is just another one. Okay. The lady working at the laundromat, no offense to her, but probably I'd be surprised if she graduated high school, right? Um, she may, at most, she probably graduated high school, right? Um, but she's a hard worker, friendly, and I show up and she's doing her job, and everything as usual. And we get to talking, and I tell her about the situation, and I told her my attorney's name, and she goes, "Oh," she's like, "Well, I'm friends with her," and she says, "Yeah, she got disbarred because she was using drugs." So, how legitimate is that? It makes a strong case for it makes sense why my attorney wouldn't um it makes sense why she would get disbarred and not do her work right, not file the proper paperwork and then get my case thrown out of court. And she was doing drugs. Well, make the connection there, right? My son's mom, um she she did a lot of drugs, right? You know, and and she was desperate for the high, for the thrill, for whatever the drugs gave her, like whatever you want to call it, the high, the thrill, Um, so I can imagine them figuring out a way to link up with my attorney and possibly party with her, maybe, or offer her some kind of drugs or something. I could see that happening. Another thing was is this attorney that I had, her focus, she had female clients, but her focus was on men. Okay, that's another thing. And it made me think that maybe perhaps because she focused on men, uh, you know, and I think she told me that too. She tries to focus on men's cases, and because she talked about that, men are not fairly treated in the courts. And so, anyways, so turns out it was drugs. Um, from this lady that I hear. So I make the connection that it's my son's mom is involved somehow, right? And so there's another component to this uh, that makes it appear that perhaps that she could have been on the drugs before meeting me at all. And in retrospect, so when this happened, the thing happened that caused me to get custody in the first place, a domestic violence incident that happened at the home she was living in, uh, created an opportunity for me to get custody, and so I got physical custody for a year. At the same time, see, she had a daughter also. She had two kids, my son and his sister, and um, her dad. I told him about my attorney, so he hired my attorney also, same attorney. So same thing happened to him, and uh, now the attorney, she offered to split the cost since we were dealing with the same woman under the same circumstance. Uh, she said that she would split the cost since it dealt with the same circumstance. So, could I mean, I don't know if that was a money grab to, make it easy on our pocket so that we would hire her. But at the same time, perhaps, you know, perhaps it just made sense. I don't remember if I told her that I struggle with money or what. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was, but maybe, you know, she felt like she could knock two birds out with one stone, right? Like that. So, that's a possibility because she could have charged each of us a full retainer, right? Me and him she could have charged us like $3,000 a piece, right, or something. But instead, she charged me like $1,500. Okay, so retainer, and him $1,500 retainer. Now today, attorneys want $6,000 retainer. It's double, right? Um, but and there are no pro bono systems. There are no pro bono lawyers. I know some people might say, "Well, what about pro bono lawyers?" Or, "Oh yeah, there's some pro bono lawyers out there." Well, just because they exist doesn't mean that it's you can just easily like call somebody up and say, "Hey, I need a pro bono." No, pro bono cases just happen by when you get lucky, basically. Even I had a former attorney that I used whenever I got custody of my siblings. Um, I called him up and I was like, "Look, we've been done business before. I just wanted to see if told him the situation. If I don't have any money, would you be opposed to doing a pro bono?" Because people told me, I didn't know he did pro bono. This was after I had hired him previously, right? And so, um, and somebody recommended, "Hey, this one guy, Philip, and he does pro bono cases." And I was like, "Oh, he was my attorney whenever I got custody of my siblings. So maybe, yeah, maybe I can, you know." Anyways, so maybe I can hire him. But he never. He told me he would be interested. He'd look into it, but of course he never got back with me. Um, so my attorney has disappeared, and and I want to think that my son's mom was involved in it, and perhaps like kind of like setting her up or something. You know what? I never. This sounds crazy. Why did I? Maybe I did. Maybe I did. But like in my head, I'm thinking like, did I ever think to? Did I ever think to look up criminal record for my attorney? Like, did she get arrested? Maybe I did. I don't know. But I don't. Maybe one of y'all can help me out. And I don't like calling the sheriff's office. I won't call them. I won't call the family court either. Um, but if somebody would do it, if, if we could figure out how to get some criminal records drawn up, I might have to look into that. I'd be curious to find out if she got arrested, but I don't think she did. I probably did look it up. I just don't remember. Anyways, so suddenly my son's mom shows up and says, "Hey, you have to return him. the court case has been thrown out. And all this went down. Like, how come I wasn't notified? How come I wasn't told by any court, sent any letters? But all of a sudden, my son's mom just shows up out of nowhere. She knows everything about what happened. The case getting thrown out. How come she's privy to that information long before I am, and then suddenly I just, out of nowhere, my case gets thrown out? How is that? Before the court date. Doesn't make sense, does it? How come she's in the know but I'm not? Anyways, so I lose custody. I end up going to court, and they held me in contempt of court for not returning my son. Because my son's mom showed me that paperwork, and it just didn't make sense. My attorney disappeared, So I did not return him because she didn't have a place to live. But later on, I was held in contempt, and because I didn't. So she took me to court for not returning. Suddenly she's got a $6,000 lawyer, and she's got a $6,000 attorney taking me to court to get custody of my son. And obviously the dude paid for the attorney, right? The dude she was with, the guy that worked for the government. And so she takes me to court, and I have to be my own attorney. And we did the whole thing where put the witness on the witness stand, and I had to be like, isn't it true? And all that stuff. I had to do all that. And ultimately, they ordered my son back with her, and I told them, well, why am I going to send him back with her when she's homeless? But I was like, I got a whole apartment. He's got his own room. And the judge looks at me in my eye and looks me dead in the eye and says, the court understands why you don't want to return your son back to his mom, but however, the current court order states that you should have to return your son back to his mom. Like, when did I get notified of all this? And so therefore we are going to hold you in contempt, and you return your son this afternoon after school. It was his first day of kindergarten. You return your son this afternoon after school. We're not going to send you to jail or order you pay any fines, because the fine is $1,000 for being in contempt, or community service. It's a community service, $1,000, or a year in jail. So we're not going to give you any jail time, We're not going to charge you anything, as long as you just return him after school. So my son's mom immediately takes my son to her dad's, where she's allegedly staying, and it's a shithole. It's a complete shithole, right? This place. And last year he died due to some kind of accident on his own property. I think that's what happened. It was like he tripped over something, and they found his body a couple weeks after it had been decomposing. And so he lied on the bench when I interrogated him. She lied on the bench. They all lied, and it was like a conspiracy seemed like it was a conspiracy between, perhaps even between her attorney and my attorney as well, possibly. And because a couple years later, her attorney got disbarred. Okay. And, her attorney had a professional Facebook page for the law firm that she worked at, or for her attorney page on Facebook. And strewn out all over that Facebook page of hers was her and the same judge taking pictures together. They're doing adoptions for the family court, and they're all sprawled across that page is her and that judge. My son's mom, my son's mom's attorney. Okay, my son's mom's attorney and the judge are all over that attorney's Facebook page, pictures together. So they're buddies. They work together. And that attorney tried to harm me, tried to put me in jail, tried to interrogate me, tried to make wild assumptions and claims about me and how I lived and the sanitary, tried to make it sound like I live in these unsanitary conditions, and just tried to make me look really bad. And then a couple of years later, she got disbarred for corruption, for doing something corrupt, and it made the news. That's how I found out about it. It came on the news. It went across, York County Attorney, blah blah blah, and I can't remember what it was, but she got disbarred, and then after that, that family court got a brand new $28 million building built. And the fun part is there's no court record of that day ever even happening. As far as the court records, that day never happened. And so eventually my son's mom moves up to DC secretly. For several months she's been up there, virtually the whole time. She's been staying with her dad, allegedly. She's not. And so her dad is taking care of my son. And I go up there every day, and I pay every time it's time to pay child support. I hand him the check because she's never there. Hand him the fucking money order, right? I wouldn't be surprised if he cashed that check in himself, right? But then again, he may have held on to it and waited for my son's mom to drive down from DC and to cash those checks once she got there. So I wanted to get my son out of living with her dad. So when I found out she moved to DC, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get her to get my son and take him up there with her, because found out she had an apartment up there. And I was like, the best thing I can do is just get him away from his grandfather. So she was thinking I would take her to court if I found out, which I couldn't. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to take her to court about it. And then it would have ended up, I was still kind of in a weak position, I think. And I didn't know what to do. I just figured I don't have money. I don't know how to represent myself really to do anything. I'm very broke now, right? And so anyways, I tell her to take him. She does. And then I drive up there and I visit him, and she's got a little apartment, and I tell his mom, I was like, look, this was my strategy, my tactic to have access to my son. See, I knew his mom would love to have someone take care of her son so that she could be alleviated from responsibility, right? So I drove up there, stayed a few days, and maybe like a week or something. And I was like, I tell you what, I will move up here to DC too. And let me go down back to the Carolinas to get my stuff. And I'll bring my stuff up here, and I will go up to, and then I'll just crash here until I find a place. And but here's the thing, I didn't have any money, and so I quit my job. and then I went up there, and then I came back down, and then good day. So I came back down um, to the Carolinas. I got my stuff. I went back up there. I went back up there, and she had a nice apartment. It was nice. It was a nice little. I think it was a 1 bedroom apartment. And all of a sudden she had to move, and I was like, "Well, that sucks because it's a nice apartment, nice location." Um, and then she tells me why she has to move, and it's because some people claimed that I was stealing people's clothes out of the dryers and the washers at the laundromat, the apartment complex's laundromat, and they told me I had to move. So the real reason why she had to move was, she said that they claimed that she stole underwear out of the laundromat, out of somebody's laundry. And you know what? I know that that's true. That's her way of saying, like, saying what she did without saying what she did. When in reality, if it wasn't true, they wouldn't be kicking her out. So basically, she'd been down and rummaging through people's laundry, stealing their women's underwear from people out of the laundry, and they caught her on video doing it, right? And she tried to say, "Oh, I didn't know it was." No, she was, because that's what she does. She shoplifts, she steals, and so it was weird. Went from a nice apartment, and then she moved to this other apartment, and of course I helped move because I was trying to be with my son, and I was already up there, So I just got a text from an old customer I hadn't done in a couple of years. So that's some money. I gotta get my blower fixed though. Anyways, so what was I gonna say? So yeah, I moved into this other apartment that was more shoddy, further away from the city, older, and it was a basement apartment. So the windows in it were near the ceiling. See right there how that one's like near the ceiling. But imagine some square, all your windows waist high. They're all above, and you go down into the basement to your apartment. It kind of sucked. And basically, she just downgraded the quality. But anyways, that's why she got kicked out of the apartment complex, and then that's when she came down from Christmas and got arrested for DWI. But anyways, that's a whole nother story.